Hello Indie Game fans, more awesome Metroidvania titles came across my radar recently with a number of TBA titles but some good looking games in this list. Let's begin with the very minimalistic Worldless, a title that has long been in development, releasing this prototype demo from 2018 and seems to be showing signs of life. There's relatively little information about this title without much of an online presence, so we do have to guess on the story, but what does intrigue me is the art style and character design, looking simple with disjointed limbs but somehow gorgeously slick in the combat animations. Your enemies in this are similarly minimalist in design, but it does add a tremendous sense of style to this title, showing that the developers know their stuff, so it gets on my list as a title to watch. A pixel art title of interest is GigaSword, a self-styled puzzle Metroidvania where you're wielding a giant sword that would make Cloud Strife proud. This sword forms the core mechanic of the game in that while you can swing it around and cleave enemies in half, it's also central to the puzzles, having you sticking it into objects while finding a way to transport it around the level. You can leave the sword behind in order to jump higher, but that of course makes you unable to attack, so it seems like a clever mechanic that this developer has built around, and I'm looking forward to this.
A great vision to unite and connect everyone around the globe. The Forum.
A cute little Metroidvania title of interest is Glitcheon, one that, as in the title, has a glitchy aesthetic, and while not much has been revealed, perhaps we will get some sort of Axiom Verge-like twist on this.
Trust us, we know you.
One of the most underrated Metroidvanias out there is Environmental Station Alpha, so do not belittle the simple pixel art of PSYCRON. While not as minimalist as ESA, it's a sci-fi entry that of course has roots back to Metroid, where you're exploring a space station in order to uncover what happened to the crew. Intriguingly, the description mentions that something is roaming the halls and watching your every move, so certainly something sinister in the dark and some horror overtones, where overall, this just looks like a well-made one of these. The Light of the Darkness is a sweet-looking Metroidvania where you play as a creature born of both light and dark, being caught in an eternal conflict between the two, but the developer has a wonderful explainer video, so I'll leave you to them.
The Light of the Darkness is a 2.5D action RPG with platform elements and free exploration, in a style known as Metroidvania. The game is based on its own mythological universe with a character-driven narrative and story, like Castlevania meets Legacy of Kain. Seeking an intriguing and epic feeling, choosing digital painting and sculpting instead of following the pixel art trend. The game has a strong focus on open-level designs, where players will be able to explore large regions of the world without the need of long transitions or loading times. Each area represents an episode, filled with their own creatures, story, bosses, and more. There is a great focus on the winged nature of the game's protagonist. With these wings, the player will be able to glide and fly, granting an increased sense of freedom. In the combat field, the game seeks balance between depth and simplicity. Players can get a wide selection of weapons, each with their own attack patterns and attributes. Players will also be able to combine elemental natures in order to cast powerful spells. Elemental natures can be acquired by absorbing different creatures, granting the player new skills and improving the mastery of the absorbed nature. The Light of the Darkness strives for artistic harmony. Models, illustrations, animations, and all other assets are produced to generate a strong visual identity to keep the player immersed. All of this set in the original universe created by Fernando Rabello, where the player takes part in the conflicts permeating the breathtaking lands of Oblivion, a place mired in intolerance and a constant struggle between light and darkness. Join us on the journey of developing the Light of the Darkness by following us on our social media channels. Until we meet again in the lands of Oblivion. Goodbye.
A super special shoutout goes to After School Afterlife, a mini Metroidvania title that is inspired by Peranakan culture, which, if you're not familiar, are also known as streets-born Chinese and are the result of intermarriages between southern Chinese settlers and the Malay, Thai, or Japanese predecessors, resulting in quite a unique multicultural legacy that is part of Singapore's history. It's from an international team with at least one member from Singapore, hence the special mention, so wishlist this for something very unique in the space. Alright, so this is not the new title, but rather La Mulana 2, The Tower of Oannes, is DLC for the massively popular sequel to a puzzle Metroidvania, where if you're in the know, you will be sure to pick this up. The La Mulana series is one of the best puzzle exploration titles, a little bit different as compared to your Hollow Knights of the world, since the focus is not so much on combat, although that is present as well. It comes to us from a small Japanese team, so I do think that there might be some things lost in translation, but this DLC adds a new area which is on par in difficulty to the Hell Temple in the base game. This does make it of interest, and if you have not played the original, I would implore you to pick it up. The next title is quite the strange or interesting collaboration, where in Jonah Weingarten's Ninja Brigade, the musician gets sucked into an arcade cabinet and must battle his way out. The Japanese-inspired setting looks neat, with various yokai and oni that must be defeated, where a hero can harness the power of demons and transform into another form, which enhances his combat prowess. There looks to be plenty of movement abilities like a glide and an air dash to be used in the exploration and backtracking, and does also have decent looking pixel art, so it gets a spot on the list. Pretty excited to share that the amazing looking Eterna Noctis, just covered 2 videos ago on this topic, finally got a release date and was confirmed to be this year. We got a new extended trailer which shows off some of the absolutely stunning environments, definitely aided by the lighting effects, with the sheer variety in environmental design should be fun to explore for Metroidvania fans. Play as the King of Darkness, traversing the world in order to regain his powers, which is a very convenient setup for a Metroidvania title, but I do love it when developers do this and gives your protagonist a reason as to why they can constantly gain new powers. In addition to the combat, there does appear to be quite a number of platforming challenges as you weave your way through spikes, adding another layer to the game which looks promising. As compared to many pixel art entries, this uses hand-drawn 2D art which is lovingly animated frame by frame, and based on the movement and action in the trailer, seems like it has fluid animation and is a pleasure to watch. For all of the reasons above, this gets a high spot on the list, although I do hope that it does not get overlooked by releasing in December. The title that is on everyone's lips has to be GigaSword, a moody Metroidvania title starring, yes, another character in a plagued doctor mask. This made waves not least because of how similar it is to Hollow Knight, but it's actually from the developer of the monochrome Unworthy, which I've covered on the channel before, so a good pedigree with an awesome look taking the #1 spot. If you're itching to play a Metroidvania right now, check out this video on hidden gems that you might not have played, and I will see you after the jump.